To your friends, you know.
But the ponytails for Catholic ones, you're about 12 foot tall, so if you have one of those in the
Yeah. Well, and these pots too, also, the smaller the pot, of course, the plant isn't going to get as big. Something like that. It's going to stay, you know, the roots are going to be a little constricted in there, so it's not going to be as big. It's like, say, you know, you can go over to the Botanical Center and see a couple ponytail palms that are every bit of 40 feet tall.
Would the desert rose do okay inside by a bright window?
Yes, ma'am. Sure will.
Or a patio?
Mm-hmm.
Talk to us about a desert rose for a second.
Well, as far as I know, they can get up to about 3 feet tall or so, maybe taller than that. That's what I was told.
Keep them in a pot.
I would. Yes, ma'am. It's going to bloom early spring through the summer, basically. And it depends. I was going to wipe these leaves off because, you know, as I look at them, it looks like they did have some overhead watering at one time. Besides that, I would just treat it like a ponytail palm almost. You know, let it go real dry between waterings. Not bone dry, but they do like to go, most of these like to go dry between waterings. They do not like to sit in water. As you can see, get this guy out of here again.
They like to be root bound.
Well, not really root bound, but they do have a bulb. That's why you really don't have to, when you see it like this, you don't have to go, oh my gosh, I need to put it in a bigger pot. Because it's holding so much water in this base. Okay, that's what keeps the plant going, and you don't have to water it as often. But when I do water them, I do give them a good drink, let it drain through, and then just let it dry out between waterings. I mean, it's pretty dry right now, but you can see we're starting to put out all the flowers on the top here, all the buds coming out. And some of them have just a single trunk, but this one is a very beautiful plant. It's got you know, double trunk on it.
And they only bloom in the spring?
Most of the time. In the summer.
End of July.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go dormant for
No, they're all, well, yeah, the flowering. The flowering,
But they
actually.
don't, somebody was saying something about them losing their leaves, and I had
Yeah,
had.
if they lose their leaves, you don't panic. I thought, oh my gosh, I killed it, but then it's all
It came
filled
back.
out again, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, see, I think mine got taken away, and I don't know if it was dead or not.
That can happen with underwatering, usually overwatering.
So,
What happens?
mhm.
The water doesn't have anywhere else to go, and it starts going up to the into the body of the plant itself, and you'll start losing leaves. Start getting discolored. Usually, an indication of overwatering is usually black spots on the leaves. A lot of times, underwatering, you'll get more of a dryness-looking leaf, or curling up. You know, you'll notice that.
Right.
Especially if it's underwatered. It'll definitely show signs of that, and it'll let you know.
I think I neglected mine in the greenhouse in the winter.
Well,
Yeah,
Jeff,
you really-
He said his are blooming, but the leaves are falling.
Well, they had fallen off, but it's, you know, it's coming back now with leaves and blooms, so.
Sometimes they'll do that because what they're doing, we talked about that calancho that we were talking about before that had the big spike on it with the bellflowers. I mean, it's just spectacular. It was like that for probably 2 months or so in there. I'm surprised I didn't sell it, but I don't know how anybody was going to get it home in one case. But when it fell over, because the plant what it's doing is taking all of its energy and forcing it up through that stalk all the way up to those to produce those flowers, and that might be possibly why you've lost some leaves on it.
So I think what probably happened is I put them in some ceramic pots that were pretty deep. But I think it just, I mean, the top would get really, really dry, but the bottom down in the pot was probably still wet. And so the feet, his roots were...
The roots probably might have
sitting in
stayed a
that.
little bit too moist. Yeah.
So I mean, I'm going to try and go back and I guess put more...
That's when Super
Clay
Thrive
on the
comes
bottom.
into play, actually. You know, if you have a root problem, you think you might have a root problem, that Super Thrive is incredible stuff. It goes a long ways, and it's really a great healer. It's incredible stuff, it really is. I'm just going to put a few rocks in here just real quick for basic touch up, and
Is this where we say thank you, Mr. President?
Call it a day.
Thank you very much.
No,
Good job.
so you saw how simple that was. Basically.
What would you recommend for a rock garden? I'm gonna dig up some cactus, native cactus, and put them into I have no choice but to have a big rock garden.
You know, it's real pretty is that ice plant.
Yeah, but the deer
Gorgeous.
eat it.
Yeah, well, put some
But I meant-
Bobex out.
But what I meant was for a soil in between the rocks. I'm just gonna dump a bunch of rocks and shake them, and then there'll be cavities, you know, where I'll put the cactus.
Mhm.
What would you recommend for soil in there? That's
Some good cactus mix.
a lot.
Yeah.
Get your checkbook.
Yeah, it can add up pretty quick.
You might look on the web, I've seen things where it tells you combinations so that, you know, you
Yeah.
can get your own. That
I'll tell you, you can find a lot of, there's so many websites now that, contrary to Bob's opening segue, I am not an expert in this field, in any sense of the word. But,
But you love the plants, I can
oh,
tell
it's-
that.
You know more than we do, so there you go.
they are so cool to work with, really neat, and I just have a blast working with them. I'm just fortunate enough to work here where I can go in and pick and choose, you know, and I try to get unusual things, and I think if you go look in there, I have some pretty unusual plants, you know, succulents and cactus, but I do focus more on succulents. I worked with cactus for years and years, and I just got tired of pulling thorns out of my hands. But if you do work something like, just wear a good pair of gloves, and you know, just use your common sense.
I just think the succulents are really prettier anyway.
They are, but I've got to say that I did get some little cacti, and you'll see them in there, kind of a rainbow colored almost. They're pinkish, whitish, purplish color, and out of the whole flat that I got of 20 or whatever's in that flat, one had a flower that was that big. Just, I can't even describe it. It was pink, dark pink, light pink, and in the middle just a brilliant pink. Almost the same color as the cactus. Just gorgeous. And it's funny because I had them out in the parking lot when I first got them off the truck. Two people bought 2 cactus out of that flat, didn't pick that one. I brought it in and put it at the outside register, and it's gone like that. So,
So, I wasn't here at the beginning, so maybe I missed it, but how do you get hired to do, I mean, this seems like a dream job to me.
this, like I said, this is the second time I've done this in 2 years, that I've stood in front of people and talked.
You do a good job.
There is so much more that goes on in this nursery.
Yeah,
that people
it's the other 6
are not
days,
even
right?
Oh,
aware
yeah,
of.
I know.
Yeah, it's a lot of hard work from everybody here. I mean, a lot of hard work. I do feel very fortunate because of the people I work with, the people that hire me. And I've got more experience actually in interior plants that I worked with for many years. And I worked at another nursery where we worked more with chemicals, I hate to say it, what we did, because we didn't know any better. And that's why, now that I'm here, well, we went out of business. So anyway, I worked there for 9 years.
So experience is what
It's just experience, yes. And it's a lot of knowledge from you folks, from just everyday folks that come in here. Learn something every day.
What's the difference between Super Thrive and Has to Grow? I mean, I'm not clear.
Super Thrive is not a fertilizer, okay? It's a root hormone, it's hormones and vitamins for the root system. But like I said, you can mix that with the fertilizer and do both at the same time if you want to, you know, or you can do them separately. But of course, the Has to Grow is a fertilizer, an organic fertilizer.
Do you have any more to print out?
Yes, sir. We should have some at the outside register.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thanks so much, Jeff.
Thank you very much for coming.